Father Frank. Sir, please come. Karibu sana, karibu sana. Thank you. Welcome. Karibu sana. Wapi makofi tafadhali. Thank you.
The DJ has stopped early. And in a country where we have a scarcity of DJs, you got a DJ. Hi everyone. Yeah, so my name is Frankline Kibuacha. Is a problem. Okay, let's do the talking stage first. Frankline Kibuacha, the first of his name. You will never see another Frankline Mwenda in the entire world. I'm a father of two. The same way my name is unique is the same way I made up names for my children. I will not tell you what they are, but first of their names too. I'm a former and willing accountant. I was an accountant. I did not even start out. I did CPA, I did finance, and then I did accounting for like 2 months. And it was very boring, sorry, finance people. I have 15 years in marketing, which makes me old. I'm a member of the MCIM. I love data. I love AI, I love elephants, and I hate politicians for the same reason. I mean, so big, so humble, and there are people who wish as humble and as big as they are. Wana power, lakini they would rather the lions take the credit. So anyway, that's me. I work at GeoPoll. GeoPoll is a research company. We operate globally, but our biggest areas of operation are Africa, Asia, and Latin. So I need marketing over there. I look at data every day, and have data, as I said. And let's talk about data. Should I point? Sorry. Look at that graph. We are mostly marketing people here. But look at who are becoming CEOs. CFOs are 8 times more likely to become CEOs than CMOs. CMOs are down there. Even below our rivals and sales, the CCO. And I have a theory. Like, why is that? Why? I know a CFO is coming after this one. Why is it like that? And so my theory is the CMO and the CMO walk into a management meeting. The CFO talks about cash flow, profit and risk. The CEO talks about efficiency, output, delivery, tangible benefits to the business, right? And then the CFO comes. As a lot of people, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. They start talking about things that the management cannot relate with, or if it's at those high levels, the board cannot relate to rich impressions and all that. And if you look at those numbers and ask yourself, if we were looking for the next CEO, who do we go for? the one with the tangible benefits to the business, right? And it's not like we do not have tangible benefits to the business, right? We do. Huge. It's just what we choose to report. And that's what we are talking about, vanity metrics. So what are vanity metrics? Let's start with the Bible. I love Ecclesiastes. Like, it's my favorite book ever. Not just in the Bible, but anywhere. And I've read like a bit. Ecclesiastes 2:11 talks about vanity, chasing the wind, and there's no profit in it. It actually reads us, but I looked at everything and worked so hard to accomplish. It was all vanity, like chasing the wind. There was no profit anywhere. Sounds familiar? So if you look at more academic descriptions of vanity metrics, there are metrics that make you feel good. They are feel-good metrics. You feel good as a person. The company also feels good because they have big numbers. But then, when you think about them, they do not translate to better decisions. So like, how many followers your company Facebook page has? It's a good metric. If it's 100,000, feels bad when it's like 5,000 followers. But if you think about it, does it matter a lot? They are easy to grow. I remember I used to work at this place, and those of us who have been in digital marketing know this. Your manager or the business owner, or if it's an agency, the client comes and says, how come my followers are 50 and my competitor has 500 followers? So what do? You start tagging your friends, you boost following, easy to grow. You get 500 followers within a day. Very easy to grow. Very easy to present. I'll come and say, 500 followers are right there, or 100,000 app installs are right there. You can see them. But then, the saddest bit about them is that they cannot be connected to real value. So like, if you look at all this, I mean, yes, we reached 2 million people, but then where is the value in that? And that actually makes sense if you think about it academically. So there are several studies that connect this to behavioral psychology, and it's not just humans, but a lot of beings prefer bigger looking rewards over better ones. So we are naturally predisposed to big numbers, big things, big rewards. There's a concept of the median effect, and supermarkets use this a lot. So you drive a couple of kilometers to go to a supermarket that has a loyalty program. You do not think about the time you spent, the money you spent on fuel, but it feels good to have like lots of loyalty points, and that is what drives humans. It's the same way we have a study on supernormal affiliations where bats are given bigger eggs and they choose the bigger eggs over their own eggs. So do not feel bad about it. It's just how we are created. And I love looking at Google Analytics, especially when it's on the daily view, because the numbers look so good, like going up and down. And the other business review calls that metric fixation. Like, I want to look at numbers that or graphs that are moving faster than a flatter line, even though it tells more. And yes, I said they do make sense. One, and I mentioned this, and a lot of us have gone through this. The management of the client wants that big number, and they want it right now. So we scramble to get that big number. Again, psychology. And then culture. And it's good that culture was covered so well in the last magazine. For a lot of businesses, your data or the KPIs that you present and report on are the ones that determine your survival in that organization. And it's a very toxic culture when you think about it, because then I will start looking at numbers. I'll start looking for numbers rather than looking for actual value to the bottom line. And truth be told, meaningful metrics are much harder to get. So what are the signs? Volume, not value. And people from agencies do this a lot. Sorry. Yeah, so agencies will come and say, we ran campaigns, we got X number of impressions, this reach. They even count the number of posts that they did, because I mean, that's what they are being judged on. They look at popularity. Like how popular, how big is this thing, rather than performance. But then they lack context. So you have a number, you can't explain what that number means, where it comes from, if it matters, and what can happen, or what can we do to improve that number. And so we have defined vanity metrics quite a bit. And we are all guilty. Like most of us in marketing are guilty of presenting numbers because they look best. And it's not just marketers by the way. I was talking to a CEO mentor of mine over the weekend. I told him about my study and my presentation. And he told me he also does that with the board sometimes. Like if you can't find profitability numbers, then you can present what's easier, like what marketing did. So now that we have a problem, and we know it's a gas, and when there's a gas, elders are called. So elders come and look at the history of that cases, and they do what they gotta do, and popularity. Like how popular, how big is this thing, rather than performance. But then they lack context. So you have a number, you can't explain what that number means, where it comes from, if it matters, and what can happen, or what can we do to improve that number. And so we have defined vanity metrics quite a bit. And we are all guilty. Like most of us in marketing are guilty of presenting numbers because they look best. And it's not just marketers by the way. I was talking to a CEO mentor of mine over the weekend. I told him about my study and my presentation. And he told me he also does that with the board sometimes. Like if you can't find profitability numbers, then you can present what's easier, like what marketing did. So now that we have a problem, and we know it's a curse, and when there's a curse, elders are called. So elders come and look at the history of that curses, and they do what they gotta do, and I'm an aspiring Tech elder. So let's break this curse. What is the opposite of vanity metrics? So the opposite is actionable metrics, and that is the universally accepted opposite. And thinking about and remembering the characteristics of the vanity metrics, these ones are different. They demonstrate cause and effect. They show what to fix, what to change, and what to invest in. And they are often uncomfortable. So they show what people actually do rather than these are the people. So these are the people versus this is what these people are actually doing. Yes, there's website traffic. X number of people visited our website this week. But then they came to the website and these are the pages they went to. So behavioral, what the people actually do when they interact with our brands. They also tie it to value. And when we think about value as business people or as people that are members of businesses, let's think value as what the bottom line is, what keeps the company afloat. So actionable metrics are those that can point to actual value. Yes, footfall increased, but then how many bought? What was the impact of this campaign that I ran? They're also directional. You're walking and you realize that there's a snake ahead of you, so you change that, you change direction. Same way, you see the metrics, you start looking at your data, and impressions have been going up, but then the conversion rate is low, or they're not converting. So what do? When you focus on that conversion rate as your actionable metric, then you start looking at what can I change, or where can I go from here. And one of the terms that we float around a lot is data-driven. We are a data-driven company. We help businesses make data-driven decisions. That's what we say at GeoPoll because it's true. But then data-driven actually means one, that we can ask better questions. So what problem are we solving? What does success actually look like? And when you have bad questions, then you also start having bad KPIs. In research, we say that the questionnaire is the backbone of any survey. So that capability of your data actually driving better decisions. They also measure things that are typically harder to measure. Things like retention, lifetime value, satisfaction. And these are metrics that, as I said, you cannot change overnight. But you can look at them and start looking at what the future would look like. And also the data talks to what people are, what the state of mind of the people that interact with your brand is at. So when your retention drops, when your satisfaction scores start going down, then you start thinking about the people behind it, and you start talking to those people or trying to understand why those people churned or why those people did not buy from you. Then that is data that is actionable. But then at the end of the day, it's data that does not put us in a cage. It's data that makes us start thinking about the course of action to take. Because at the end of the day, data is not everything. As I said, humans matter a lot. your own experiences and market matters a lot. So sometimes challenge that data. Ultimately, marketing is a science, so data, but it's also an art. So looking at your data that way, in the sense that this data gives me the flexibility to change things around. For example, when you look at data and see sales are down, do we just know that sales are down, or do we start digging into why sales are down? Is it a distribution issue? Is it that now that tax is up, people are more sensitive to price? Is it that there's a competitor that is actually doing better than us? Is it because the salespeople are not dealing with my leads as they should? You know, those wars that we normally have. And it could also be on the positive side. So when engagement is up, is it because for a company that sells land, somebody went and boosted that post to Gen Zs that live in Turkana for a house that is being sold in Kilimani. So engagement went up, yes, but was that the reason it went up? Or did we have a giveaway of and people are coming to get the giveaway and then after the giveaway they are out? Or is it actually that people are starting to favor our brand? So, as we look at data, and this is the goal for this session, is to start changing how we think and how we look at data. So, for example, instead of just saying that our campaign reached X number of people, let's put another sentence to it and say, out of those 32 million people, a certain percentage converted. This was our conversion rate. And here is why. This is what we changed. This is the actual value that we are seeing. This is what that has changed in our bottom line. Engagement has gone up. And then we start looking at, yes, engagement is up, but then the sales have also not gone up. So what could be the cause for that? So let's investigate. And when you think about it that way, then you start measuring better. So instead of focusing on, say, brand awareness, and I'm not saying that brand awareness is bad, but then you start also looking at other metrics, more valuable metrics like brand preference. I mean, a lot of people know, let me pick a brand. A lot of people know Kodak. But then how many people buy Kodak? Yeah? Engagement is high. The campaign worked because we raised our engagement numbers. But then did it also change the ROI? Or did we just pump in money and engagement went high, but then we cannot tie that back to what we spent versus what we actually got, which is what the people in finance, the people in management are looking at. And we now start asking ourselves more important questions. And I once worked at an agency that deals with small businesses. So we used to work for businesses, and I know agencies here will frown at this number, but we used to charge them 20,000 Kenya shillings for everything. So we create content, we manage social media, we promote those, we run ads on that 20K on both Google and Meta, and we still get our agency fee from the 20K. right? I can see your faces. But we used to do it, and I can see some of our clients there in the room. And for such a case, you should think about the type of client you are working with. You are working with people who, this business is their brainchild, it's all they have. It's a choice between fees for their child and doing marketing. So how do you come to this person and start talking to them about impressions? Do they even care? They do not. So as you think about metrics that you're building into your report, the first question should always be, does this put food on the table? Does this grow revenue? Does it impact on margins in any way? Does it grow retention? Are customers happier? Does this grow my market share? And then you also ask yourself, if I double this metric, if I double this number of impressions, will I get a commensurate rise in revenue as an example? If it doesn't, then it's probably vanity. The other thing that messes us up a lot as marketers is the inability to prove what we actually do. The inability to prove what we brought to the table. And that happens a lot. So, of course, we run a campaign, it works great. We can actually feel, rather than show, we can feel that this was a really good campaign. And there were lots of people going to the shops. We saw a huge shift in the people that came to our website. But then we fall short of proving what that actually did to the business. And this is where you start thinking about attribution. So how do we attribute these good results directly to what we did? What channel drove the biggest outcome? Where were we before we started, and where are we now after we ran that campaign? Then when you start doing those comparisons and going to those meetings better packaged in what the change actually was, what that increment or impact was on the business, then you start talking the right language. So in those CRMs, make sure that your CRM can answer questions as like, I ran ads, this is what I got directly from those ads, as an example. Go to the shops, find out like how did these people that bought, now that we have seen that there was a spike in sales, how did they find out about us? Is it because they saw a billboard that we posted? So then the conversation moves from, we put up a very nice billboard on download as a success metric, to our billboard drove X in terms of returns. And very important, and I keep saying this because I'm a believer in human beings. So include human signals and sentiments into your reporting. Yes, the numbers are there, but then what are the humans behind those numbers saying? This time I was marketing for an app, and in Kenya, we got 100,000 installs within like 5 months, which is such a big deal in Kenya most of the time. But then that business folded, and it gave me a very big lesson. We are celebrating all these installs because we've been running very nice campaigns, but then we did not look at what the humans using the app were doing. So that's where things like brand perception, purchase intent, how trust and loyalty is changing, customer frustration, and on the flip side, customer satisfaction. That's where they come in. And how do we get this? I'll give you an example. This is a small example of how to connect whatever is happening on the marketing front, whatever happening in terms of the numbers that we've been talking about, to actual human sentiments. I picked this stats from a GeoPoll project for a client in the FMCG space, I would say Nite. And this client had come to us and said that the engagement on socials, engagement on their website, engagement even in the shops, and people like literally going to how people calculate interest by looking at footfalls in supermarkets and gone up. They've gone up quite significantly, but they were not noticing that in the sales. So we did Net Promoter Scores. For those that don't know, Net Promoter Score is where you ask people, how likely are you to recommend this to your friend or family out of 10? And we do the math. And in this case, yes, there was a slight increase in the Net Promoter Score. But then beyond that question, when we ask people how, and that's a static number. When we ask people, then why did you give a 3? So the answers that they give are very important because it's human sentiment. So saying the price is high, there's a competitor who has come up with a better offer, with better pricing. And in the process, we are also looking at social. We are doing social listening. So it becomes a fully packaged report that asks, yes, you have your numbers, and we have these quantitative numbers, but then this is what the people are saying, and then that becomes a more actionable way to look at why your brand is performing the way it's performing. In conclusion, again, humans. So all the numbers that are on your dashboard, like think about them as people. It's people with different intentions, it's people with different motivations, it's people with different reasons for coming to your brand and interacting with your brand. So that impression is a human. And then you start asking yourself, why did this human take their time to come to my website? Or as Ian was telling us, how come this person actually looked at the ads that were running on top of the taxi? Then when you start thinking about that, when you start thinking about why did they bounce from my website? Why have they stopped buying? Then and all that. When you start looking at those numbers as humans, then you will start taking the necessary actions. And that's why they are called actionable metrics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abigail Makofi. Asante sana. Thank you. We really appreciate it so much.